harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Hello and welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. Today my guest is Dr. Jill Briska. She's calling in from one of the suburbs of Chicago area. Welcome, Dr. Jill.
Hi there. Good morning.
Well, it's great to have you here. We're going to have a fun time. So Dr. Jill is going to talk about how she went from being in the office into the virtual world, shall we say, or the, what's the word you used? Where,
Remote.
Remote. That's a good word. I kind of like that word because, you know, what we're kind of doing here is more remote versus virtual, right?
Yes, for sure.
So, and you told me you were a chiropractor.
I am. I've been a chiropractor for over 20 years, and my practice has really taken a big turn in the past little over a year. So going remote is part of that big change.
So how does one do chiropractic remote? This has got me intrigued.
Well, you kind of change your scope of what you're doing.
Right.
I had always worked musculoskeletal, you know, like your traditional chiropractor, working on backs and necks and things like that. But I myself had back issues. I had a horrible car accident when I was in my 20s and went through a windshield and landed on the road. And then, you know, you bounce back pretty good after
Right.
something like that in your 20s, but then it catches up with you when you're a little older. And so when I had my practice, I would be, you know, after a while, I had really big patients. For some reason, I just had enormously huge patients. And my back was just not doing well. And I would collapse and I would be out of work for, you know, in bed and close up everything for, you know, like a month. And people would be like, when are you coming back? And I'm like, I hope soon. You know?
Right.
And so eventually that led to me having to sell the practice. And it was kind of a perfect storm. I was then home for a while with my got married, you know, with kids and everything like that. And I'd fill in for friends when they went on vacation. So I kept my license and my practice somewhat up, but it was very good for my back to take a break from all that adjusting day in and day out.
Right, because that can really take a toll on the body.
It is a physical, I mean, even though it's a lot of leverage that you're using, you know, you use their body weight as the leverage and everything, it still is a physical job. And a lot of times chiropractors will, you know, have problems with their wrists or their shoulder or, you know, back and things like that. So that's just the path that what happened to me. And we'll come back to like, I have been pain-free now for 10 years. And I'm going to revisit that idea when we talk about what I'm doing now. So when the kids got older, it was time for me to get back to work. I was sick. I was very sick with some kind of mystery illness that I didn't know what was going on. I would go from doctor to doctor and nobody was able to really give me an answer to make a change. What was happening was every time I ate, my face would swell. And my face was just swollen all the time. I was down to 3 to 5 foods. My hair was breaking off. My body temperature was low. You know, they were checking I had been hypothyroid for many years. I switched from a natural, like Armor, thyroid medication to a synthetic. And I know that was what started the roll downhill for me. Mm-hmm. My body was just not able to convert the synthetic into the form. You have to convert it from the T4 to T3 for thyroid. That's the usable form is the T3 form. So my body wasn't able to process it. And eventually when you start having that shutting down, it's a slippery slope. Then this doesn't get what it needs, and then this system shuts down and that problem happens. So it just snowballed into where I was just really sick and thinking I was going to drop dead at any moment. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, well, I know that I can't go back to traditional chiropractic. I don't have the strength to even work out at this point. I'm just surviving. I'm just
Right.
surviving my kids, uh, and being a chiropractor, I'm open to alternative, but energy seemed very woo-woo. I
Right.
mean, chiropractic is considered woo-woo, but
Yeah, yeah,
energy stuff
it has
was
been.
really out of the box for me. But out of desperation, you will look everywhere to change
Exactly.
when you are sick. And so energy medicine came down the pike, and I looked into what was NAET, NAET, and it's these little vials that you put in your hand that you do a treatment, and it's different modalities that help rebalance so that your immune system can identify these allergens. And it does all these different things. Like everything has energy.
Right.
Emotions do, chemicals do, food does, all this kind of stuff. So I started with something like, it was like a gluten. I'm like, I know I can't eat that. I'm going to try this. And I noticed a change. It was the first time that I really noticed a change, and then said, there's something to this energy medicine. Let's go with this. And I knew that was how I wanted to practice.
Right.
I knew that I wanted to work on people that had chronic stuff, and I wanted to do this. Well, then I came across, I'm sorry, I'm going on and on.
No, it's great. You're talking my language, honey, because I've been in energy medicine for 40 years, so I'm loving this stuff, right?
It is when the path rises to meet you. It's one of those where you seek and you're desperate, and then suddenly, when you are open and you are ready, it will rise to meet you, and you need to jump on.
Right.
So I was at a nutritional seminar in Florida, and I came across a woman there. She's a biological dentist, so she was aware of chemicals and things like that, and working with the body as best as they can with that. And she was wearing a small card on a lanyard. And I asked her what she was doing with that, and she explained to me what she was doing. And it's biocybernetic medicine is what she was doing on the side of her biological dentist practice. She's like, I'm really getting some amazing results with this. It's, energy stuff. And I immediately looked at listened to what she was saying, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm doing, but on steroids, because I could do one thing or a couple things at a time with this. This could do 140 at one time, and it's an objective testing, like, it's a saliva or hair sample, and then it looks at where in your body there's a decrease in frequency. Right. And it's objective. It's because you can have your opinion, like, I think I have this, but this will tell you where the most decrease is.
Exactly. It kind of pinpoints it right there. I have a body scan machine, which is bioenergetic medicine, right? And you harness up, and it kind of does the same thing because it reads those meridians, and it tells you where that domino fell, right? Yes. And then it recreates, its own homeopathic style remedy, to stand those dominoes back up. And as you start doing that, because it goes to the cause. So you've got your cause over here, and then you have the outcome over here, right? And they're way out of whack. And so with the remedies, what happens is it starts to open up here where it started, but it also starts this way, and the dominoes begin to stand up until they meet in the middle. And so if you give yourself at least 6 months steady, 1 month, do that testing, it's like you're a total different person, because those dominoes continue to stand up, and then you can do a maintenance like once a quarter or something. It's just amazing, because we are an electromagnetic being, right? So when you're working with frequencies, and a lot of people don't understand frequencies, but it's become more of a household word now, where when I started this back in the 80s, not so much. And so you're really talking my language here, and there's so many awesome machines out there.
It's a big umbrella. It's an energy medicine.
Oh my goodness.
It's a big umbrella, and there's so many things that are available. And what is great about it is it gives so many options, and it gives like what speaks to you, what works with your lifestyle. it's working together as opposed to like looking at health, healthcare, or like healthcare providers and practitioners, looking at it at all like it's a pie, and I want my piece of pie, and I'll take your piece of pie too. You know, it is not like
okay, you froze up here a
what
little
works
bit.
and what speaks to you.
Right.
So this came to me, and it spoke to me because I had been taking, of course, all the lifestyle. I had done all my lifestyle changes when I was sick. You know, no coffee, no alcohol, down to, I mean, taking this food out and taking this out, and my chemical, you know, I changed all my, you know, the cosmetics and those kind of things. And I was taking like 30 supplements a day, and nothing was changing.
You know,
I can't even think about how much money I spent on that. But this was a card. This was just a card. And it's downloaded with the balancing frequencies. And all you do is you wear it for 2 weeks. And I'm like, this is speaking my language, because really, I'm quite lazy. Or
well, you know, I mean, that's true. That's true. It's like, you know, you get busy and you forget about different things. Yeah. You start feeling a little bit better, and it's like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. But your body is saying, hey, yes, you do. You know, so it is. It's what's going to work with you. How does it work with you? And in alignment with your thought processing, in alignment with what your physical body is saying, you know, and yeah, I mean, there's patches out there. Oh my God, years ago when the patch thing kind of started, and again, that was a vibration in it, and you wore it for different things, whether it was to stop smoking or adding vitamins, you know, so there's a lot of ways that you can do it, and what works for you. It's not like one thing is going to be the answer to everything. It's not.
No.
You need to pay attention. Pay attention to your body. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what needs to be embraced in our society, or in our culture, because we have, you know, the allopathic mindset and tradition, like this is, you know, it's either a drug or a surgery, and this is real. This is the real stuff.
Right.
And then there's all this the alternative stuff. And really, it shouldn't be a this or that. It should be an and, because like when I went through the windshield and landed on the road, I was not looking to have my frequencies rebalanced necessarily. I needed surgery. I had to have bar and pins put in here, and I needed to have, you know, the medications. But that was, you know, they really shine in acute care. I think we really do have in this country great acute care and top doctors that can help us with those things. But once you're out of that zone, there's a lot of things that should be considered instead of, like, wouldn't want to be on pain medication for all this time. That's what they were giving me.
Right.
I mean, like, oh, here's something for this, and here's something for that, and here, take this. Like when I was sick and I went to my general practitioner, she said, I'm like, something's wrong with me. You know, my face is swelling and all this. And she's like, well, you're getting old, and I think you're depressed. So she, you know, was about to, you know, she was going to write me out a prescription for an antidepressant. It's like, and then, and my and a statin for my cholesterol that had suddenly gone up. And it's like, oh, no, you know, I just kind of ran out of there and said, okay,
get me out of, you know, this Band-Aid effect. I think people are starting to realize that it's just that. It's that Band-Aid effect that, you know, it's like, no, I'm done with the Band-Aid, because what happens when you suppress something, it continues to run amok and it keeps getting worse, right? And then another Band-Aid needs to have another Band-Aid and another Band-Aid, and pretty soon you're totally in an array and disarray of like, what the heck just happened to me? And it's like, now you really got to struggle to get back, because, you know, those drugs, you know, the statins, the antidepressants, all of those are also going to cause different dominoes to fall in different arenas. You know, you look at what's going on in the world today, and it's nothing more than a fear factor around what's playing in your psyche, right? And again, where's your immune system? You know, the stress, like we don't have enough stress.
No one is talking about your immune system. Through this whole thing, nobody has ever mentioned that 80% of your immune system is in your gut. I mean, why are we not talking about that? Why are we not?
Because you might be able to fix it. Are you kidding?
Exactly. That should be like headline
Right.
news.
You know, and you create those stressors. I don't have to tell you, I'm speaking to someone who really knows, but you know, the audience out here listening, you know, when those stressor points are triggered, it's also in that feel good zone of the brain. That triggers your happy feelings and all of that kind of stuff. But now it's hitting the cortisones and the dopamines and the things that the body is supposed to have short little jerks of when you're in the fight flight mechanism. But now it's a consistent thing running, you know. And where does the excess go? Those chemicals that are being generated by your body that was for survival, you know, when there was a bear chasing your butt down the, you know, out in the woods,
Right.
you know, isn't necessary anymore, but it's on
They
a
serve a
constant.
purpose.
Yeah.
You don't want to eliminate things completely. That's not how it's meant to be.
No,
It's
because
like
that's
homeostasis of balance.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you're running in stressors all the time, and you're having those chemicals, they have to go somewhere, so they usually end up in the joints, right? You know, and that kind of starts that
Stress
snowball
is 5% of the base of
of
even
everything.
even traditional medicine is embracing that idea. I mean,
Right.
I think if you ask anybody, no matter where they stand on healthcare, they understand that stress is a killer. Stress is
Right.
the root of a lot of problems. And so if we could delve into that a little bit more, we could start looking at, you know, sure, you know, you want to decrease your stress and avoid, you know,
Right.
like mental, you know, emotionally, structurally, chemically, do all these kind of things. But that missing piece is energy.
Exactly.
Energetically
Exactly.
is what takes it from health to now you're like, this is ultimate health.
Yeah, back into balance, right? You know, it's that harmony thing. Too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing, and it doesn't matter what side of the fence you want to have it on. You know, you talk about vibration and frequency and stuff. Like when it's mentioned positive and negative, positive and negative is nothing more than a frequency. Yet we've termed it as being good or bad or right or wrong.
Yes.
Which that's kind of got a bad rap here. So when you understand that you are an electromagnetic being and you have the positive charges and you have the negative charges, it's like everything. I mean, what we're doing right here to be able to be on this Zoom, to be on this computer, to be on the phone, to be this whole electrical. Here you are in the Chicago area. I'm sitting over here in Denver. We're having this conversation as if we were in the same, you know, space. Yet it's all dependent upon a positive and a negative current.
Right. Through the, yeah. I mean, everything is the vibrational balance of things. And you're right. I mean, emotions or things that are positive, perceived as positive, like happiness and joy and peace and things like that. There is a time and a place for it. But there's also a time and a place to feel sadness or to feel, you know, different emotions. That doesn't they make you human. And you know, it's finding, like, if you're down here too much with guilt or shame or things like that for too long, you know, yes, you want to find something, but setting yourself up that you always have to be happy, and that's an impossibility. You're going to feel guilt for not feeling happy. And you're just at the bottom again.
Well, you know, and it is that happy balance, you know, between the two. And, you know, when I work with a lot of emotional things, that's kind of where my specialty lies, is in that emotional impact. You know, so when you look at an emotion is a word. Feeling is the charge for the emotion. So if you're feeling happy, you know, you're charging it with enjoyment, you're charging it with adventure, you're charging it with, you know, all of those things that we label on that positive upcharge, right? So if you're feeling sadness, now what's in that is the frustrations, the angers, the guilt, the grief. That's what's charging it. It's what's fueling it. So when you understand the difference between emotions and feeling, and the feeling is what you need to disconnect from. Doesn't make you cold. You feel it and then you charge that emotion which now makes you stronger, gives you more clarity of what you want to or what not to, right? To move on, but you disconnect from the feeling, because the feeling is what's going to put that on autopilot. That's going to prevent you from being that best you, from moving forward to new adventures, new challenges, new interest, new purpose, new fulfillment, all of that, because it keeps you running in the background in that fight flight mechanism of the subconscious saying, oh no, you're not going to do that. Are you kidding me? Remember what happened the last time? You're not going to do that. And it really binds you to blocking the true essence of who you are on a soul level, right? Yeah. And so when you can understand how to unplug it, it's just like if I pull the plug right now that's into this computer, you'd be gone that fast, right?
Right. So it's those tapes that run in our head, you know, the subconscious mind, which is what, 90%, something like that. It's 90% of who we are.
But is that really who we are? It's who we think we are. It's what we're led to believe from the database of information. I put together a little program where I have 5 different steps of recognition on eliminating that charge, you know, to unplug that charge, because the emotions are always going to be there, because that's your safety net. You know, so first off, you got to recognize you have an issue. Secondly, you have to acknowledge that issue, you know, that replay that's in the cell memory now was your truth when it was created. And this is the one where people have the greatest struggle, because they don't want to, and I don't believe that. That's true, but you did when you created it. Mm-hmm. The subconscious is still living as if it were in that moment, because there is no time and space when it comes to the fight-flight mechanisms. It's in the moment, right? And so when you acknowledge that it's right, it stops the conflict, that war within yourself, because it was your truth when you created it. Now your database has expanded, but the subconscious doesn't know that. The subconscious doesn't care. It's been stored and running on this autopilot, and that's what puts things in motion for you. So now that you've acknowledged that, the subconscious says, oh, yeah, I'm right. Okay, it's like this little 5-year-old child, right? Now,
right. That's about when it was set up, right?
Well, a lot of it, right? A lot of it, yeah. So then when you can do that, you can release it. Now it's the subconscious is ready to let go. It's going to listen to logic and to new things, because you're saying, yeah, back then it was this and that was all old stuff. And it's almost like you have to bribe it like a child, you know. We have this old candy bar and it's getting moldy and nasty and everything else, you know. If we get rid of it, we can take this new candy bar. Oh, look at this, you know. It's got all this good stuff in it. It's got this and that. And the subconscious, again, like that little child says, oh, okay, because we all find ourselves running to that shiny object. Yeah, and so what you can do at that point, now you're going to deplete and take the charge off of that program that's playing and eliminate it. Then you replace it. And again, this is another key out of those 5 steps. The acknowledging and the replacing are 2 definite things you don't want to forget, because you put in now your new database of information, what that new belief is, and that starts running on that cell memory. And now you're off to the races, and you accept that as your new truth. Wow, things really shift, you know. And this is a program that can be done in 30 to 60 seconds. So
yeah. It's the figuring out that you need to look at something else, because self-help books are wonderful. They are really, you know, sometimes that 5 to 10%, it's exactly what you need. But for a lot of us, we have set ourselves up from a very early age, taking in information and not having a reference of why we took that the way we did. And then it just keeps coming and it keeps coming. And we have to find a way to communicate with that subconscious. And there's, because once you do, if it's 90% of the tapes that are going in your head and why you believe what you do and why you react, I mean, viscerally, you can, because of a belief system in the subconscious, you will have a visceral physiological response to something that you don't even know why
it's there. Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's really becoming in tune with your body that there might be something to look at. And that's where, when you spoke about the time and space, like there is no time and space. There is no time and space overall. I mean, it's like everything is happening in the moment. When you start getting into quantum physics and how strange this all, or mind-blowing it really is, but time and space is something that is a creation for this existence. And as not, if 90% of our beliefs, time and space is no matter. No, it's not even taking that in. That just tells you maybe we need to broaden our scope of what is causing our health in that.
Right.
Just look at it. Just consider.
Yeah, open your mind to new avenues, and really, if you're one of those logical persons that has to have the science, and we do have the science behind it now. It wasn't so much before, but over the last probably 8 to 10 years, science is starting to catch up with what metaphysics and the unknown has already known. And you go, so it's coming together. Physics and metaphysics are actually in the same bed, right now, which is awesome. And so the logic part of it's there, but the seeing part, seeing is believing. Again, it goes back into what that doubt is, right? And that trusting issue. Yeah, so there again, it's that
playing. Well, we want to be right. We also, as humans, we like to be right. And we think we want to we've put that in this box. And this is where this goes, and this is real, this is not. This matches my belief systems and my mindset, so I'm all good,
Right.
But that's it. Thinking like that is kind of like being a 19-year-old.
Well, and it really goes
I got
back.
this all figured out.
I know everything, right? When you look at how the mind works, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the higher consciousness, there's this what we call critical part of mind. So the consciousness is bringing all this database of information. It's relevant to what's going on in the element at the time. It's that always being right, how you interpret at the moment with the information that you have. It goes to critical part of mind, which cuts and pastes, puts things over here in the flight, puts things over here in the fight mechanism. That's that subconscious. That's the autopilot, and it always wants to be right, and it will overpower you no matter how strong you think your consciousness is. It's kind of like going to war. There will never be a war if there's no battle. If you learn to surrender at the battle, there's never going to be a war. So when you look at the conflict that's going on inside of yourself, those are little battles. And so now you're fighting the war out here in your general world that you want to be right in, because your database of information has changed, yet the storage bank, there's no space for it in there, and it's running on autopilot, and that's the conflict. That's those little battles. When you learn how to win those little battles, there's no more war, and everything out here in your perspective now becomes in harmony. It becomes peaceful. It becomes what you choose it to be, and so now your pendulum is coming back into a happy medium. And it's simple, but it's not easy, because it's
opening yourself to it and getting on the path of looking at things differently, and kind of questioning what you have going on. Why do you believe what you believe, and maybe trying something else. But that reminds me of, I wanted to kind of revisit my low back. Okay, so I kept collapsing, and it was really, for several years, I battled just being incapacitated and not being able to work, and really struggling with that.
Right.
And you know Louise Hay.
Yeah,
right?
I love her. She was a sweetheart. Yeah.
And when she talks about, this is where I really started getting into, I knew when I would treat patients that there was an emotional component, because when I would do their soft tissue work and I had them one-on-one on the table, it's doctor-patient confidentiality. I don't know who you're talking about. So I would hear all of the stuff that's going in their lives, and these type A, I was in the financial district of, like in the loop by the Board of Trade. Their shoulders are in their ears. They're so stressed out with all the stuff. And you work on it. They're telling the emotional stuff that they're dealing with, and the muscles would just melt. And I knew that there was something to that. Right. So, but with my back, speaking of muscles that are, in tension and everything like that, as I've gone through my journey, now I said I've been pain-free for 10 years. What changed was I realized, or I started working on that fear. It's a foundational fear, low back. From what she's saying, what Louise Hay was saying was you fear safety and you fear your foundation and like financial or
it's that lack of support. It's that lack of support.
Support.
Right? Whether it's emotional, physical, financial, it's that lack of support. Yes. Right? And your kidneys are pretty close to that lower back, and fear is stored in the kidneys. So now you've got the combination of the lack of support, the fear of not having the finances, or maybe not having a relationship that you want, or something's falling apart in your life and it's like nobody's supporting me, and so all of that's there.
So all of those things had to come to my attention. Mm-hmm. I had time to lay down. I had no choice.
Literally lay down, right?
Really start thinking about that.
Yeah.
And then I didn't carry my twins. I have twin 9-year-olds now. I was not able to carry. We had a surrogate carry because of my back. But when they came, they were little, and they gave me a reason. And that security of like, I can do this. I am strong. And I was able to stand up for myself. It was not a good marriage. And so that was another part of it. And so when I really started to speak, I was able to find my voice and find my own strength and find a reason that I am strong, being a mother.
Right.
It all changed. And I don't know. On X-ray, I looked like he said, 10 years ago, I looked like I was 80 years old on X-ray, no discs, no nothing. The only thing that changed was, obviously I took the pressure off of not adjusting all the time, but I was carrying, the baby carriers and the bags. And
it's just the same thing.
I was able to do all of it. I was able, because I asserted myself, and I am my own foundation. I found my own inner strength, and I have been pain-free for 10 years now. So there's something with the emotional and
it's a mindset too. You're building a different mindset, right?
Yes.
So it's a combination. It's not just one thing. It's a combination. But all the things that I'm hearing you say are a part of this, because you wanted something different, and you were going to get it no matter what. So you were consistent, you were driven, and you were open-minded, and you weren't going to take no for an answer, because that's not the choice of life that you wanted. So that direction and that focus that you have, and again, you made a commitment to yourself. I am not going to spend the rest of my life being in pain. I'm not going to do, right? So again, the commitment to the self, and I think that's where it has to begin. No matter who you are or what's going on in your life.
I had to find myself worthy.
Your self-worth, your self-trust, your self-belief, your self-truth, your self-confidence, everything. The self gets lost in the heart chakra, right? So when you're not able to speak that truth, you begin to swallow it. Mm-hmm. It goes into the lack of nurturing, the lack of nourishment through that heart chakra, and then you swallow a little bit more. Now you're losing the self. Every piece of the self, it's now getting buried. Now you go down into the sacral, or now you play the martyr. Then you drop into that was the solar plexus, excuse me. Then you drop into the into the sacral, which is your victim. Then you end up down in survival, which is that root chakra. So when you're looking at that levels of energy and where they are, most people spend it in those lower 3 chakras. They're either playing.
We're very fear-based, and
right. Victim martyr, survival. But when you start becoming that truth of who you are in that conviction, you start releasing it. It starts to come back up. You regurgitate it, and it starts moving into that heart chakra, and you realize exactly what happened, where all of the dysfunction started, and you start nurturing yourself. You start nourishing yourself. You start accepting the true value of who you are. The pieces of the self begin to return, and then you get your voice. And that's what this show is all about, is being that expression. How you went from not being the best you that you could be, coming back up to being that best you. And every single day you become better and better and better because of that recognition, of that acceptance, of like, yeah, I want all of me back. Piece by piece by piece, it's putting that puzzle back together. And when you become that expression, just like sharing what you shared here today, Jill, is amazing. Because when you started in this conversation, if you go back now and you watch the show again, you're going to see how you changed from the beginning to where we are now in how you express, your body language, everything just went to a different level because you were expressing.
Yeah. It's being vulnerable and being able to share the trials and tribulations of your life. Because I think as human beings, or our egos want to kind of come across as, I got this. No, I'm fine and I'm good and I'll, and that was one of the reasons we talked earlier about how I didn't join Facebook until November.
You're the first person.
This is not authentic.
You're the first person that I've met that hasn't been on Facebook till like a few months ago. I mean, I know a lot of people jumping off of it, and again, the social media it can be used on all different avenues, Again, it's the attention getter. But what are you using your life? What is the expression of who you are? And it really boils down to walking the talk of who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, we're doing each other a very big disservice when we aren't willing to be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
In such especially in this time where we're all really seeking. There's a lot of stuff that is happening. And I mean, I'm hoping and looking at this as the world is being broken open, and we're really going to have to look at the institutions and the status quo, because it's not working. And if in this time we try to keep up appearances like we did in the 50s, and like everybody, no, we're good, and everything is a mess behind closed doors, we are not going to change. The 60s didn't happen per chance.
No, they didn't.
Of people needing a revolution, and I think we are in the midst of a revolution.
I think we're in a revolution now like none other, right? And it's our generation that are going to make the difference again. Part of that baby boomer. I mean, I'm right at the top end of that baby boomer, and it's like, we made the change back there, and we're going to make the change here. And it's bringing that technology. We talked a little bit about virtual reality before we started the show here, and opening that up into that no space and time arena when you are in the virtual reality, because in that avatar form, there's no inhibition whatsoever. And you can be all of what you want to be, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what skin color you are. It doesn't matter what shape your body's in. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're from. Nothing matters when you're in the avatar world. And you can just be that expression and be able to speak, because you don't even use your same name in there. You can be whatever name you want to call yourself, right? So the freedom and the expression is phenomenal. And the more I get involved with that world, because we've taken the gaming platform of virtual reality, moved it into business, moved it into health, moved it into education, and being able to put that together where people can start to be comfortable in their own skin, really discovering their true soul essence of who they are. And then what is it being on this planet here? What does it mean to be on this planet? what have we lost? Because I'm a firm believer in nature will create an action where everyone has to react one way or another for survival. Because when it gets messed up, it's going to put itself back into harmony. And we can learn a lot from nature. And she is pissed off, shall we say, big time. Right? and
rightfully so.
We've had the warnings, we've had the tsunamis, we've had the fires, we've had the volcanoes, we've had, you name it. We've had it.
Yeah.
Now she says, okay, let's let me just slam dunk you into no man's land where you can't do anything. Now take a look at what's going on. How are we going to come back up and out of this to make the changes? So again, it really starts here, right, Jill? It starts.
I love how you explained that, because that is exactly the process of how it went. Losing your ability to speak up for yourself.
Right.
And I even had, like I said, I had thyroid issues.
Thyroid.
Right?
How many thyroid issues are going on out there? It's because that throat chakra has been shut down. Then the heart shuts down. Right? Then you move into playing the martyr because that's part of your survival, and that being right thing. Then you jump into the victim because the victim wants to play the role of, wait a minute, it's poor little me, I have to be right, feel sorry for me, type of thing, right? So,
and then the process of coming back up.
Yeah.
And I remember I enjoyed singing. I was in choir, and I'm always one of those people that just kind of singing around the house and things like that. I remember when I was really having problems, I couldn't sing anymore. My voice was cracking. Right. My voice was just, I didn't enjoy it. It would tire me out to try to sing, and I didn't have the joy in my heart to really sing either. So it was just a mess. And I knew that things were starting to change again on this journey with everything when I started singing around the house again. And my voice, I'm like, hey, I'm sounding good.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be cutting any records anytime soon, but
well, that's part of that.
It's joy. It's part of the expression of joy and your voice, and finding that ability to not only have I found the ability to speak up for myself, be my own advocate and everything, but I have joy in my heart to sing again. So
and that expression is so needed because sound and music is very healing. It's very, very healing. And it's interesting that you mentioned that. And I told you earlier that I was like 7 years old when I got in the face of the camera. I was actually on a show called The Barn Dance. I had a mic in my hand, and I was singing "You Are My Sunshine."
Oh,
so you look at that. It just kind of brought that memory up when you said that, and I love singing. Am I going to cut a record? I did some on stage singing, and I did have my own studio for 4 years, and wrote songs and went out and performed them on the karaoke stages. Our own music, and so I've had some of that. Never put anything out there, on the stations or anything, but it's part of that, and it was another expression. It's another expression of who you are, right? Oh, Jill, we could continue this conversation further. I got to have you back, and we're going to focus on a few other things because you are so full of information and that
love it.
avenue.
I've enjoyed this so much. I've really, really, truly enjoyed this conversation. I would love to come back.
Well, we're just going to have to make sure we make that happen.
We do.
Right?
We do make that happen.
So thank you so much again for being on the show. It's time to say go out there, be that best you that you can be. Why? Because Jill and I are going to be the best we that we can be. You guys go out there and make it a great day, and we'll see you on the next show.